Ladies and gentlemen, 2019 South Dakota Hall of Fame inductee, Bill Groethe.
Good evening from the luckiest kid in town. Yeah, I started off at an early age with a passion for photography and optics, and was well received when I went first to a studio and wanted to work for scraps of paper for my home darkroom that I had built. So I got paid no money for 3 years, but a wealth of instruction in basic photography from masters, which I am forever grateful for. So I want to talk a little about 80-year plus career in photography, which has always been just a lucky thing for me, because all the way along I have prospered. And so as a beginning, my career of 18 years, probably in 3 distinct sections. The first 22 years with Bell Studio in Rapid, where I worked 7 years before the war as a learning photographer, and by 15 a printer, and learning the large camera work that we did in a commercial studio. So by then, at the end of 41, out of high school and starting at the School of Mines, we had completed Mount Rushmore. So in those 7 years, most of those times, Bell Studio was a primary photographer for the mountain and its construction in final years. So I always got to go along. And so at age 13, I was there and able to photograph Mount Rushmore for the first time. So it was a great learning experience, and again, lucky to be there. At the end of 41, when the cable car came down and the mountain closed, the war started, I went into the service for 3 years as a photographer, and so I have a completed a year and a half the mines, I decided to go in. I came out in December of 45, and then for 12 years stayed with Bell Photo as a working photographer, where we did thousands of weddings, portraits, commercial work, all kinds of advertising, photography for the businesses, of course. And Mr. Bell had previously left. Ned Parague, who I worked with, was another stepson of the Bells, and they had trained him as they were doing to me. And he didn't come back to the studio after the war. He started his own business. So I was the photographer in those busy 12 years, thousands of weddings and commercial work where I did all the shooting with large cameras, but also did all the printing. In those days, a photographer didn't just shoot. He had to process and print and sell and explain what he was doing, because after the war, everybody was coming home, they were getting married, but a wedding wasn't 200 shots or 500. It was maybe 12 shots, formal, 12 in an album, and they're still there. So yeah. When we got flash bulbs after the war, we were able to shoot a speed graphic and shoot 24. So we'd put 24 in an album and sell them, and we didn't waste any film. So in order to get under the restraint of time, I would say that Bell Studio for 22 years with a little military was the first segment of my 80 years. And during that time in 42, I took my first vacation 6 years after getting home and met my good wife, Alice, skiing in Colorado. So from then on, of course, my life changed for the better. We finished Bell in 57 and decided to form our own business with all kinds of opportunities, with new equipment for photo finishing. We developed a rapid film service overnight. My wife had been the secretary for the base commander at Ellsworth for 3 years until our first child came in 56. So she came home and we had started our new home, and we built it in 56. It's still there, and we started our business in the basement. So we prospered for a year in the basement. When new equipment came available for the processing, we bought that and moved to a building in West Rapid in 58. 2 years later, in 60, another new big building in downtown to house the first color processing. So we were on our way to our own business. That was our dream. Everything went well in this phase 2 for over 35 years. And we developed plants in 7 states, operated 5 at a time, all well-trained employees, well-paid. And by the time of 70, with the new electronics coming into play, we built a new big building in Rapid. In 71, a plant in Grand Island, a plant in Denver, and took over a plant in Casper, Wyoming. It was failing. and we were operating all these very successfully. And of course, during the flood, our local plant processed up to 2,500 rolls a day. Had 35 employees. 6 of them lost their everything, and one young lad lost his family. So we were close to all of the developments. The digital instruments came into play in 1970, and we had the first ones in Denver and Rapid, and they weren't $99 Office Max machines. They started out, they cost $30,000. But that's 35, almost 40 years in that phase two, and now in the last several years, everything has changed with a volatile market in photo and the whims of the consumer and the fact that our suppliers competed against us with big plants, and we had built their business after the war, so many of us quit those people and went to German products, which were very sellable. We still do that. Their machines are great. They never competed with us. We were successful for a long time until, of course, the discounters came in, changed everything again. We were left with the possibility of either dissolving or evolving. And so we just bit the bullet and kept up with all the technology, but continued all these times to record the events of the time that were historic, because that is what I felt was my second passion, and that was to record history. And believe it or not, we're not doing it today. When we are going so fast in this electronic environment, we must start to think about saving, because my only legacy now is what I've done in the past, because I'm not able to do what I did. That doesn't matter. Time will tell. But I want to thank everybody, my wife, my family, my extended family, and my good friends at Mount Rushmore. Some of them are here, and my good friends in the Native American community who are here. We all joined with me in thanking everybody for this great honor.